Okay, so hello and a warm welcome to our next episode in our Lettings Launchpad series of PCS Pods. So I'm Kate Forsdike and I'm Director of PCS Legal, and today I'm joined by Philip Mallourides of Activate Your Success. So Philip currently runs a landlord compliant course and helps all types of landlords be and stay compliant when renting out your property. So this is what we're going to talk about today. There is a slight caveat I'm going to put in right now that the information that we give today is relevant for today. So we're kind of early in 2025, and obviously the information can be subject to change. So always keep yourself up to date and do your research. So hi Philip, so thank you for coming in today.
No, it's a pleasure.
So what are the recent changes in the law that landlords should be aware of regarding tenants' rights and also for landlord responsibilities?
It's a bit of a minefield right now, to be fair, because we have the Renters Reform Act, which is going through now. It's been through the House of Commons, and it's now at its second reading in the House of Lords. So we don't know what the final thing is going to look like, really. But it's going to be changing a lot. Yeah. The ASTs, as we know it, are going to disappear. So there's not going to be fixed term contracts.
Yeah.
It's all going to be periodic rolling.
Yeah.
Which is going to be interesting. Things for eviction, for example, like the Section 21. Yes. Most people will probably know it as the no-fault eviction.
Yes.
It's not really called that, but that's how people see it, because you can just issue a 21 for any reason. So they're going to be getting rid of that.
Yeah.
And now it's all going to be down to the Section 8s, which is fine. The thing with the Renters Reform Bill itself is that there's nothing really bad in it. There's lots of bad press.
Yes, of course.
And with anything that changes within the marketplace, some people see it negatively and some people see it positively.
There's always pros and cons, however you look at it.
Absolutely, and it's about seeing the opportunities that you can take. So the Section 8s are going to come in. Still don't know how that's going to look or what the terms are going to be and those kind of things, but looks quite good. There's an interesting one of the decent homes standard that's in there as well, because at the moment we already have a type of decent home standard, the HHSRS, which is all about health and safety within the home. So we already have that.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure
how much more you can do.
Is there going to be any changes, or are they just going to change the name? And then one of the other things is about a redress scheme, landlord redress scheme. And then they talk about a database as well. So again, are those two things going to be combined into one, or is it going to be two separate things, which then means two separate set of costs, I would imagine, as well, which is the problem in the landlording world, because all the time just more and more costs.
Everything's getting more expensive, isn't it?
Coming onto the, in the arena, in the sector. And it is the effect that has is it just puts up rents.
Yeah, of course.
Because landlords, where are they going to find the money from?
Yeah, that's right.
Because they're not all rich.
No, especially people that are renting like one or two properties. Absolutely. They're going to be the most affected, aren't they?
Especially now because mortgage rates have gone up.
Yeah.
Again, people's mortgages have gone up, and we've had it good for the past 10 years or so, 15 years. But actually, rates have gone back to where they used to be.
Yeah.
Where some of us who have been in the game for a long time.
I remember those days.
That's kind of 5%.
to me, it's normal. Yeah, exactly.
I started when rates were like 16%. So that's another story. But it's 5% is quite normal. But for a lot of people that have bought within the last 10 years, all of a sudden their mortgages have doubled.
Yeah.
So they're really finding a strain at the moment.
So, in your opinion, how do you feel the upcoming changes might have an impact on the rental market? I know you said it's probably likely that landlords will put their rents up. Is there anything else you feel that might have an impact?
I think it's early days at the moment. the changes with the ASTs and just having it periodic rolling, I think it's more about perception with tenants, because some tenants like the security of a fixed term.
Yeah, of course.
So they know
how long they can stay there.
Absolutely. You get a 12-month fixed term, you think, okay, well, I know I'm going to be here for 12 months.
Yeah.
But now that's all changing.
Yeah.
So it's swings and roundabouts. I think more of it is about the negative perceptions from the landlords. Although, depending on what the final bill looks like, I can foresee rents being pushed up because of the extended regulation that we have with the database and so on and so forth. And also there's something, and there's talk about banning advance rent payments. So someone paying for 6 months in advance kind of thing. And they're talking about getting rid of that. And in my experience, actually it's the tenant's idea to do that, not the landlords.
No, that's right.
And so you're taking away the choice for them.
Yeah.
And then there was
see how much difference that would.
It's
make
I don't know. I think a lot of these things are based on people's vulnerabilities. But if you've got a good lettings agent, for example, then that should negate any problems that they could foresee. But I know, I think it might have been Foxtons that have been reporting that, well, if you do that and you might end up with someone signing a tenancy agreement and then not actually paying their first month's rent. And it's like, but it doesn't really work that way. But then again, it's scare tactics by saying, well, you're going to get a tenant in your house and you're not going to get any rent from day one. So you've got to take things, look at things in reality rather than the scare tactics, because I'm sure that wouldn't happen in real life.
No, sure. So how important do you think it is for a landlord to keep up to date with the changes in the housing law, and what are the most effective ways of doing so? Because it's a bit of a minefield, especially if people aren't used to dealing with like laws and legislation and stuff.
It's hugely important. It never used to be, because certain things you could get away with and play catch up, if you like.
Yeah.
But nowadays, the more and more they seem to, be building regulations and bringing in financial penalties as well, both for tenants and landlords. So it's now even more important to understand what's going on. That's one of the reasons why I created the landlord compliance course.
Yeah, to make it easy to understand.
I wanted somewhere for landlords to be able to get the information that they need, but not just for now, but for the future as well. So they get, whenever the rules and regulations change, the course changed as well, so they can just log back in and have a look, and making it a place to find the information that you need.
Well, that's the thing, because if you read like any laws that come out there, they're always pretty long-winded, aren't they? So it's good to have somebody to summarise it and say, well, actually, this is the information that you need to know.
Absolutely. I mean, I get the information from legal experts, because when I read the bills, I don't understand it. It's so much gobbledygook.
It is. It's like a different language, as far I always say when we do conveyancing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what are the current health and safety regulations that landlords must comply with when they're renting out the property at the moment?
So at the moment you have the HHSRS, which is the Home's Health and Safety Rating System.
Yes.
Not a lot of landlords actually know about it.
Right, okay.
It's because, again, where is it? We don't see it. No one talks about it. Not even letting agents talk about it. But it's actually been in place since 2006.
Oh, really?
So it's a very long-winded thing, and actually, if you get the booklet, it's 72 pages long, and it's very boring. But it's really just about the safety of the tenants.
Yes.
Making sure that the house is standing and looked after. Things like windows all work, gas and electric.
Yes.
We have the gas safety certificate and the EICR for the electrics that have to be done. But it's also about ongoing maintenance that people don't really realise. So when people talk about, oh, I need to get my gas safety certificate, but they don't talk about servicing the boiler.
No, of course.
That gets left behind.
Yeah.
And you think, well, actually, as a landlord, you have the duty of care to your tenants. And that doesn't mean, okay, at the beginning of the tenancy, I give them all the paperwork that they need. That's it, done.
Yeah.
I wash my hands.
Yeah, that's it.
It's
I'm done
about
now.
the ongoing maintenance of the property, making sure, the gutters are clear, the roof doesn't leak, the windows are fine, and the gas boiler is serviced.
Yeah,
at least, because it's an ongoing responsibility.
Yeah.
Again, water systems, Legionnaires.
There's a lot about mould as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
a lot about mould in the press and stuff.
Mould, damp and mould is a difficult one because probably, I don't know, I wouldn't like to put a percentage on it, but that generally comes from the tenants.
Yeah, of course.
Because cold weather like this, they don't open the windows.
Yeah.
It's the washing, they put it on the radiators to dry and that kind of thing. So that's a very emotive subject to get onto.
We won't get into that too much then. So what are the current fire safety requirements for a rental property?
So rental property, if you have a house, for example, it's very minimal, actually. You need the smoke alarms and not necessarily for fire, but the carbon monoxide detectors for the gas.
Gas as well, yes.
That's really about it for a house.
Yeah.
If you then move into blocks of flats, for example, you need then to have fire doors as the front door to the flat, which needs to be checked all the time. Yeah. If you have a block of flats, then normally the managing agents.
Yeah, well, the landlord, they have to do an annual fire risk assessment anyway. So you should. Yes. But the important thing is that you are actually looking at it and making sure that all the recommendations on there are.
And if you're a landlord that owns the freehold of a small block of flats, for example, maybe it's an old Victorian house that you've converted, then obviously you need some sort of fire alarm detection system.
Yes.
In the communal parts, and then everything's interlinked. Yeah. So it all goes off at the same time. And those changes came in October of last year. Yeah. And then obviously if a building's more than a specific height, then obviously it gets more complicated. Yeah. But really, with fire safety, there's not much to it. Unless you get into the HMO side of things, then it does become more important. And they look at fire exits and fire escapes and those kind of things. But really, with a standard house, there's nothing apart from the smoke detector.
The only thing that's probably quite easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what should a landlord do if a tenant raises a compliant issue with them? What's the best course of action?
It depends what it is. So compliance issues are more about the paperwork at the beginning of the tenancy. And you really have to be careful with this. For example, deposits. Yes. If you take a deposit, you need to put it into a scheme within 30 days. Yeah. And that's an absolute must, because after that, then the tenant can actually come back and get some money off of you. Yeah, which nobody likes that, do they? And they can get 3 times their rent, and you just think, well, hang on a minute, what's going on here? The landlord has to pay the tenant money because they just didn't do something. Yeah, which I think it's a bit harsh. But then if you move on to other issues regarding the property itself, maybe repairs and maintenance, for example, then I think the landlord, should take it on board and act as quickly as they can. Yeah. Obviously, if someone says, the boiler's not working, you say, okay, right, I'm going to book the gas engineer to come and have a look at it. Okay, he can't come out for a few days.
There's not too much you can do.
It's all to do with the reasonable time aspect. But also, I think it's a lot to do with communication and how you get on with the tenants. because if they know and understand what's going on, then they're more likely to accept it.
Yeah, of course.
So if you respond quickly, what I found is that actually they are receptive to it. They're like, oh, okay, no problem, thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Rather than having to chase you all the time.
Yeah, because
nobody just gets
likes
their
to be
backs up.
ignored either, do they?
Yeah, and savvy tenants nowadays also know that they can complain to the council as well.
Yeah.
Which then opens a can of worms.
Yeah, which nobody likes to do.
No.
So what should a landlord do if they have to evict a tenant?
Often we always say this is the last resort really to evict someone, because no decent landlord wants to chuck anyone out onto the streets, those kind of things. So there's always a reason, and a lot of people, the reason why they're getting rid of the Section 21 is because they say, well, landlords are just chucking people out.
Yeah.
And it's not really. I think it's 1 or 2% of all Section 21s are just because the landlord doesn't like the person or something.
Yeah.
There's always a reason to it.